Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video, there is a house in Tennessee that is quite possibly the most psychotic place on earth, and it's there for fun. And it's ran by one of the scariest men I've yet to talk about, who A, seems to relish the negative attention, and B, hasn't killed anybody that we know of. Russ Allen McKamey is as fascinating a human being as he is batshit insane.
Hey everybody, it's Russ coming at you from the van.
That is to say, very. You probably have heard of him, but even if you haven't, I guarantee that by the end of this video you will either love him or you will hate him. And I think the former is a very tough sell. But before we get into all of that, please subscribe to see new stories for the dark every single week. Now, let's give it a go. So to begin, we gotta set the scene, and the scene is haunting. Quite literally. With its own subculture and terminology, the world of haunted house attractions, or haunts, has exploded in popularity in recent years, especially around this time of year, October. But what, started out as just like a little seasonal treat, yeah, real funny treat, sort of turned into something that takes place all year round, with people coming from all across the globe to experience these haunts. It's sort of like become its own form of like roller coasters, skydiving, extreme attractions. There are a ton of like different reasons for falling in love with haunts, but the one you come across most often is the very same as roller coasters and horror movies. The feeling of terror without the actual consequences of it. Something I actually found really interesting is the surprising number of people, like quite a large number of people, who have adopted a haunt, usually one haunt in particular, as sort of a form of therapy. A lot of people relate to haunts as a form of therapy. It allows them to work through their fears, their traumas, and their anxieties in a safe environment. And it seems like that sense of, survival, kind of similar to like exposure therapy, then leads people to be, keep coming back for more extreme. All right, what's the next one I can do? What's even more extreme than what I just did? And eventually, kind of at the top of that pyramid, is McKamey Manor.
Great McDonald, LA Times. As you can see, I'm bloody, soaking wet, and terrified.
I don't think anyone knows what they're in for if they go here.
It's the most extreme one, and we're going to talk about it right here. But, I also just got to let you know, I won't be able to show you a lot of footage from McKamey Manor, because otherwise all YouTube over here will come and take this video out back behind the shed and kind of, But also, it's quite traumatic and disturbing to even view it. The earliest iteration of the manor as like an organized attraction and destination was founded by a certified madman, that is Russ McKamey. It seems that it goes all the way back, like the earliest sources credited even beginning as early as 1989. So this is, an old dog, this whole thing. McKamey Manor, the experience, began its existence as a pretty standard, what the industry insiders call it a boo haunt. It's like your pretty standard, home haunt. You walk through, there's sound effects, there's skeletons that jump out of closets, all that kind of stuff. Nothing too extreme, more kind of fun. Probably something for, the younger folk. Stick a copy of a Now That's What I Call Halloween CD in there, and boy, you got yourself a home haunt. It was only really enough to spook the easiest to spook. As I said, it was a pretty family-friendly environment. It was even featured in like the local newspapers as a family-friendly destination. Russ McKamey was even kind of talked about as like this neighborly uncle type, which, spoiler alert, is a far cry from where this story will end up in about an hour's time. Like many of us, Russ McKamey had a strong love of Halloween, the spookiest time of year, horror movies, everything theatrical, all that kind of stuff. As a boy, Russ would set up, scares and pranks for the other kids in the neighborhood, and then this even continued, into high school, where he kept up, scares, pranks, and he was, a member of the theater, the high school theater, and he would continue up all these kind of things. Russ continued his setting up impromptu holiday haunts with other students. Again, these were all, very roughly put together on a zero budget and very much thrown together. And when Russ's life took a strong, left turn and he ended up in the US Navy, he enlisted, you would think it would put kind of a stop to his haunts and his love of spooky things, but the answer to that is no. He would say even in the US Navy, he would set up, fright sessions for his colleagues. He even says, and you can take this with, a grain of salt, that he even set up improvised, home haunts on actual Navy ships, which sounds like shit. But throughout all of this, there's kind of like shockingly little detail about Russell McKamey's actual personal life, other than a lot of the horrifying accusations that have come out about him. What we do know is that Russ was born on January 28th, 1959 in Fullerton, California, to Joan and Ross McKamey. His parents were originally from Nebraska, but had retired to California after Ross retired from the US Marine Corps. They ultimately divorced in November 1971 after 17 years of marriage, and the then 12-year-old Russ remained with his mother, but he maintained a strong relationship with his father. Russ graduated from Sunny Hills High School in 1977, and a couple of years later, in 1979, he followed his father's lead and signed up for military service. Rather than the Marines though, Russ went and enlisted in just a regular old Navy. Russ actually served close to 23 years in the US Navy, if you can believe that. And while his love of Halloween spawned from, enjoying trick-or-treating with his dad when he was a kid, his love of, torturing people probably, stemmed from his time in the Navy. Might have started out as hazing, but quickly kind of dramatically escalated from there. Russ's father, Ross, he died in August of 1992, and apparently he took it very hard. It took him a long time to get over the death of his father. And it was in 1996, while Russ was still serving in the US Navy, that he moved to the Rancho Penasquitos neighborhood in San Diego, California. The house on Almazan Street was the first to become known as McKamey Manor. A year after the move to San Diego, Russ married his girlfriend, Linda Sargent, in Las Vegas. The couple went on to have a daughter together named Lindsay, but would separate in the early 2000s. Russ didn't stay single for too long though. He quickly got together with his longtime friend, Carol Schultz. Schultz would not only become Russell's partner in love, but she would also become his business partner, becoming like a key component of the earlier days of McKamey Manor. She helped establish McKamey Manor and, gain its reputation as one of the most extreme home haunts in the entirety of the United States, if you can believe that.
And as for his wife, Carol, she says she's fine with being a family that takes Halloween to extreme.
And like its evolution from, family fun, scarefest in the 90s. Oh boy, come 2001, folks, jeez, it changed a lot. And it was around that time that Russ changed his entry policy, to get into his home haunt, to include guests being required to bring a big old bag of dog food. That was like your form of payment, which he would then donate to like local dog shelters and stuff, which is, fair play to you. So with the haunts not actually bringing in like any profits, as I said, the form of payment to get in, big old bag of dog food, it actually cost money. Russ, now that he was out of the Navy, he needed a steady stream of income, and guess what? He became a wedding singer and DJ. Pretty unlikely place, knowing his current reputation.
Russ McKamey created a house of horror that would rival anything at a carnival or theme park. 9 rooms, animated ghoulish figures. You wonder what he spent on it.
This year, about $30,000.
He guides neighborhood kids through in groups of 2 or 3, assuring them that everything will be fine, that the snakes don't really bite, that there might in fact be a vacancy in the psycho room.
It took me 6 months to do what I did in there so far, and we just ran out of time.
Russ was a busy man in the early 2000s, not only running his haunts and singing for a few dimes, but also after retiring from the Navy, Russ took on work with the VFW, that's Veterans of Foreign Wars. There he used his counseling skills he'd picked up during the service. He had experience during his service of providing, substance abuse counseling to other members of the military, and, he continued using it now that he was out, which is, again, fair play to him for doing that. Like, that's pretty decent. Like, it's interesting how he would, traumatize people in his haunt, but then he would help with people who were traumatized or going through difficult times when out of it. Sometimes people are just pretty complicated, and Russ is a complicated guy. We're gonna get into it, but he really also loves playing the villain. Russ loves playing the heel, the villain, the bad guy throughout this entire story. He really relishes it. I guess because he loves horror, because there's some pretty heinous allegations out there about him, and he's never really disputed them, from what I can tell. And before we continue, folks, it is the time of the season for the scariest stuff out there, much like McKamey Manor. And so with ghosts and ghouls, in the air, if you wanted to A, hear them real good, or B, drown them out, then you can do no better than my best friends, my bosom buddies, Raycon, and Raycon's best-selling everyday earbuds. So this guy keeping things quiet is essential as I research and write the very videos you are watching, which is tough when I have a big old road right outside my place. Or should I say it was, because now Mike's got a pair. That's one for each ear of Raycon's incredible everyday earbuds. Which is what I'm doing. I had them in when I wrote this, and now I have them in when I'm saying it, which basically I have these in all the time. Even at the dentist, I can't hear them drilling into my mouth. Raycon's everyday earbuds are to make your everyday just a little easier. There's a lot of features about them which I am a fan of. And you know, there's the ones we already know about. The 32 hours of battery life. 10 minutes of charge gets you 90 minutes of battery. We know all this. What about their brand new features? I'm talking active noise cancellation. I'm talking multi-point connectivity, which allows you to connect to 2 different devices at the same time. I'm talking active ergonomic design, folks. And they are available in a whole host of colors and protective cases, all of which allow wireless charging. Look at you. My favorite, goes without saying, is active noise cancellation, because even if you said it, I couldn't hear you. But also quick charge. 10 minutes charge gives you 90 minutes of battery, baby. Plus they just sort of like look really good. Kind of make me look uglier by comparison, frankly. Raycon made its name by providing premium audio products at great prices. No BS. Most audio devices are insanely overpriced these days, and Raycon is on a mission to change that. They don't outsource their design and development. It's all in-house with their own team to make the highest quality earbuds. So why don't you get a pair of Raycons today? And you know what? Tell them that chapter sent you. Do so and you will get an incredible deal. Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/chapter to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. Yes, you heard me right. That's a little audio joke. You'll get up to 50% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/chapter. Thank you so much to Raycon for sponsoring that chapter. You know, please support them because they support us and hear good. Now, listen up. Let's get back to it. So it was around the mid to late 2000s that word of how intense and extreme McKamey Manor was. It spread beyond, you know, their home in San Diego. It began to spread to all across America. Like, folks, you like home haunts? Get a load of this.
Oh, hey, this is Russ from McKamey Manor, San Diego, California. Do you think it's scary here? Huh? Well, do you? I think so. What do you think?
And that was also largely like thanks to the explosion of internet culture in like the mid 2000s. The advances in tech didn't, you know, obviously have a huge explosion in how the manor was advertised, you know, across the internet. But there was also this tiny little old thing called YouTube, where Russ started posting videos, you know, of participants, contestants, whatever you want to call them, in his haunts, and they would just smash that click button on them. They exploded.
Sandy, the superstar. Come here, Sandy. You're absolutely in front. The entire time, Sandy. You saw what happened to Christine, right? She ran out screaming, quit. You like my coffin?
Yeah.
You like it? You like coffins?
No.
You don't?
No.
Guess what? Guess what? You're going in, Christine.
No.
You're going in, Christine.
I'm not scared.
I'm Russ McKamey.
This is McKamey Manor.
This is my daughter, Lindsay.
The whole haunted house is very scary.
This is Carol Schultz.
Christmas to some people, Halloween is for us.
It's fun living in a haunt, but sometimes it gets a little freaky.
In 2007, it was even featured on FearNet, and it's kind of whack because even then, when it was still getting a reputation, still seems sort of tame to what it would become. The heyday of the manor came a few years into the next decade though. Internet success was one thing, but in 2013, the manor was featured on a Travel Channel segment and was praised as being a prime destination for haunt lovers. As a result, the manor was more popular than ever. Russ even had to implement a waiting list system, and he had to weed out those he thought too weak to survive McKamey Manor. You gotta have what it takes if you wanna, you know, be a part of this. I'm good, thanks. At this point though, The haunt was already crossing several lines, and it just seemed to be, how can we be more extreme? Listen, we gotta top that. That's rookie numbers. How can we be even the most extreme? And they really kept pushing it. They, for example, like they broke kind of like the #1 rule of haunts, which is don't touch the audience. Russ took that rule and he said, shove it up your hole, because not only would the actors touch the participants, they would beat the ever-living shite out of them. Slaps and shoves and punches, they weren't just common, they were considered integral to the event. It's still assault, though. Importantly, though, of course, Russ could only get away with this because it was, no minors were allowed to take part in McKamey Manor. All participants were required to be 18 plus, actors also. And previously, Russ had relied on local teenagers to act in the Manor's, various roles, but now he was working with 15 or so adult volunteers, and it was really just growing and then growing so much to the point that Russell and Carol decided to go pro. If you're good at something, never do it for free. And so they decided to up sticks and move to a place called Hazy Meadow Ranch. This is about northeast of San Diego. Only that's when Russell got hit with a cease and desist from the city. Apparently they weren't peachy keen, they weren't too keen on what exactly McKamey Manor was, and they didn't really want it kind of around them. Well, you don't really want a torture chamber kind of next door. The screaming will get annoying. So there was a complete halt to the work they were doing in Hazy Meadows Ranch, and if that wasn't enough of a financial setback, Russ was also let go from the Veterans of Foreign Wars in 2015. So he had no stream of income from then on. So Carol Schultz, she became the sole breadwinner in the McKamey Manor home. She was responsible for buying all the props. Basically, she was responsible for financially everything. After that, Russ spent the next couple of years looking for a new home for the haunt. An attempt to move things to a location in Illinois was scuppered when residents found out about the nature of what was, going on in the experience and petitioned against it. Not in our town, they said.
Hundreds have taken to social media for and against, some going as far as threatening to burn the building down.
And I know that what we're doing is just smoke and mirrors, and it's just entertainment, and most people understand that as well.
Despite the threats, Russ McKamey...
So while the original and most infamous incarnation of McKamey Manor was still going on at Almazon Street, the shit Russ was in, it was growing. It was only getting deeper. He was stuck. It was like quicksand, the shite. In June 2016, the dreaded IRS came and they put a $252,000 lien against the home on Almazon Street. This was sort of due to unpaid taxes going all the way back to 2012, and that's a lot. It's difficult to find out exactly what could have happened there, but Russ did shut things down and just get the hell out of Dodge after that. The hell out of California. And so, by the time the original haunt closed in 2016 and Russ left the state, more and more word about what was really going on inside McKamey Manor kind of started, coming out. That's when sort of the negative stuff, began to come out. And it was way more extreme than any other haunted house before. This was, had diverged from pretty scary and, real intense to you're just torturing people. Straight up just torturing people. And so from that, it was also around this time that a lot of people began to question the legality of what was going on inside McKamey Manor. And what were Russ's real motivations for doing it? In October 2016, the most famous account of exactly what was going on inside Russ McKamey's horror house, it broke. Balls, thought Russ. Laura Brotherton posted pictures of herself in a neck brace and hospital gown to social media after a visit to the house, and people were shocked at the state she was in, visibly bloated, swollen, bruised, and most famously sporting a freshly and crudely shaved head. Laura's photos looked more like the pictures officers take of a domestic abuse victim to be used in court than they did of someone who just had a grand old time at a haunted house. Allegedly, she had to use her safe word several times before the actors, or performers, whatever you want to call them, actually stopped torturing her. It actually took a couple of years for her to somewhat get over what she endured at Russ McKamey's hands. She was eventually able to describe details of the experience. Laura said she'd been hit repeatedly, waterboarded, tased, and whipped. It was so severe that she even had been left with permanent physical scars. I'll take carving pumpkins as the most extreme thing I do at Halloween. Thanks. But when questions even began to be raised about this, it's what the hell did you do to her? Russ would simply point to Laura's exit interview, something he had every participant do. You know, he would do an interview before they did the home haunt, and then an interview after they did the torture chamber.
Hey everyone, this is Laura Brotherton coming to you live from my hotel room after I just entered the McKamey Manor chamber. Wow, trust me, you do not want to do this. I can't tell if my nose is broken, my tattoo got torn. I just want to say, Russ, Carol, Lindsay, Beth, Ryan, Mike, Christopher, Mr. Green, Mr. White, all of you so much that I love you dearly. And I so appreciate you allowing me this opportunity to get out what I needed to get out of this.
Every contestant, before they were even allowed to seek medical attention, had to film this like short little segment where they said, oh boy, this is just the best thing since sliced bread. Can I go again? After I just give me a second for the PTSD to die down, and I'm in.
That was the most insane thing I've ever done.
Was it worth the wait?
Oh, it was worth the wait. It was amazing. You guys know how to like set up something.
Laura alleges that, you know, before she even filmed hers, she was told that if she said anything negative, she would be sued. So obviously, having just been through the ringer and pretty eager to get to the closest hospital as fast as possible, she was, lads, that was like, just wow. That was great. Loved it. I'll see you next year.
I love all you guys so much.
This is the origin of all those videos of people in very, very rough shape, usually covered in a mixture of tears, snot and blood, looking into a camera, still shaking, and spewing out a load of weirdly specific praise for the experience and Russ himself.
Awesome.
Amazing.
The next big development and scandal in Russ's life came in March of 2017 when he met his next partner. Her name was Holly Shilley, though. He was still in a relationship with Carol when he met Holly, though of course he says that nothing, you know, sexual or physical started till him and Holly separated. Carol, of course, says otherwise. And so the loss of Carol wasn't only big for, you know, Russ himself and his own personal life, it was really big for the manor itself. As I said, Carol had been basically bankrolling the entire thing, so when Russ shacked up with another woman and Carol was out, she was like, well, that's mine, I'm taking that, this is all my shit. In a shock to absolutely no one, a monthly check from the Navy didn't exactly cover Russell's personal expenses, never mind the cost of running this extreme haunted house. Carol, she worked as a legal assistant, and so she was on like pretty good money. She was paying for everything. So when she took back pretty much everything after she left, saying mine, Russ didn't take that too well, and he began to accuse her of theft, which was a sort of a bad idea on Russ's part, because Carol, you know, having been with Russ for quite a long time, she had a few things to say about him that maybe not everybody knew. Carol and Russ were together for approximately 15 years, and Carol had a real insight into Russ's dark and twisted mind. And I mean, I say that sarcastically, but I mean it literally. Carol accused Russell of years of physical and verbal abuse, claims that were 100% backed up by Russ's own daughter, Lindsay, who had herself broken off contact with her father since she was 13 years old, owing to her father's bizarre behavior. And outside of all the abuses that were literally going on inside the manor, there was apparently some other... the darkest of all accusations involved Russell's dreams. Carol alleges, and this is, you know, very capital allegedly, that Russell would wake up in the middle of the night screaming about young boys and young girls, having dreams about this. Carol would allege that he had, you know, these thoughts about, you know, young. Russell, of course, he flat out denies all of this, says it's bullshit. Having said all that, it's all allegedly, and if you're upset at an ex, you know, those kind of allegations, it's the easiest rock to throw at somebody. But who knows if it's true or not, because... well, there's more to come. One final thing to note as well about Carol is that she worked in she was a legal assistant in the litigation department of a law firm. So it wouldn't be surprising if she, you know, her knowledge of the law, connections with lawyers, that kind of thing, may have helped McKamey Manor in the earliest of days when the questions of its, you know, legality started, you know, squirting out. Bad choice of words. Holly Shilley, by the way, she was actually introduced to us as a fan. She had been working as an English teacher in Vietnam. She'd heard about McKamey Manor, you know, on the internet, seen the videos on YouTube, and had traveled all the way just to experience it herself, and she would become Russ's girlfriend for like 2 years before they split up in 2019. And very soon after the split up, Holly would completely back up the things Carol had said about Russ, about, well, she'd back up those horrifying allegations, and the allegations are pretty bad.
You need to keep an eye on him because he goes after children. He looks at children in a sexual manner. He's a predator.
Damn, it's damning. The things now both Carol and now Holly were saying about Russ. Holly would refer to Russ as a, quote, passive pedo, meaning that he wasn't actually physically doing anything, but he once again had spoken of certain desires. They're pretty disturbing allegations. Probably the most kind of, honestly, probably like, when it comes to disturbing allegations, this is pretty top of the pile. Like, hearing about these allegations, my stomach just did a 360 and walked right out of my ass. Holly remained with Russ while he was searching for a new home for the manor, all the time alleging, she was the victim of physical and verbal abuse, done by Russ. This ranged from him choking her, biting her, denying her food, even threatening to shoot her with a gun. In the summer of 2017, Russ established the most recent variation of the haunt in Summertown, Tennessee. Summertown barely meets the requirements to be called a town. It's actually an unincorporated town with fewer than 600 residents. Russ has always maintained the claim that he has a second location of McKamey Manor over the state border in Alabama. But the truth of that is up for debate, as no one has ever actually seen it, and there's basically no proof it exists outside of Russ's word. He has claimed, though, that the second location is only for those he's deemed, worthy after surviving the trials at his McKamey Manor in Summertown. Lucky them! The location, though, wasn't the only change. Wasn't even the biggest change. So with the destination and Russ's, obsessions and paranoia, whatever we want to call it, at an all-time high, this is when, everybody was hearing about McKamey Manor, he decided to introduce a prize, if you can believe it, a prize for those who would survive McKamey Manor. The prize? $20,000. Not bad. No one's won it. And not only that, Russ was now required to have potential participants, contestants, sign a waiver of legal liability so that you cannot sue them for whatever they do to you. And what they do, it's quite a lot of things that they can do. This is the waiver. It's interesting. Let's look through it, and let's read through some of my favorite parts of it. It is a fascinating read. It's dated 2017, it's about 22 pages long, there's 140 points. It's a lot of points. And one thing to remember is, so basically the waiver says that by signing this you have no legal recourse. No matter what they do to you, you cannot sue them. But, illegal things are still illegal. A waiver doesn't change something not being illegal, it just means you can't sue them. Which has kind of always been a big thing about McKamey Manor. They can't sue him in a civil court, but if the police viewed this footage, they could easily say, that's not on. And by the way, lawyers who viewed this document have said, more or less, you can wipe your ass with it. So it sort of starts off with just, registration. I've set forth any and all pre-existing physical, medical conditions and any mental conditions in their entirety below. If none of these aforementioned conditions are listed, I yada yada yada. Okay. Point 3. It's already great. I love this. Participant agrees that if the police are called or appear on the scene, that participant acknowledges that this is just a game. Part 4. Express assumption of risk of inherently dangerous activity. Participant agrees and understands that participation in this event is both physically dangerous and could have negative impact on one's mental health. By signing this agreement, the participant expressly assumes all risk of physical, mental, or bodily harm, despite this acknowledgement of the known risks. 17. Participant fully understands that McKamey Manor is an extremely physical, and that participant will leave with bumps, bruises, cuts, or other possible injuries, including possible broken bones. Participant understands that injuries are never on purpose at and participant is fully aware of the risks and takes full responsibility. 18. Participant fully understands that is not a fight club and will refrain at all times from fighting the actors. Good to know. A lot of spelling mistakes here. Let's read some of my favorites. Participant was warned numerous times about the intensity of by the owners and other members of the crew, and that
you really do not want to do this.
Folks, in case you weren't aware, you don't want to do this. Point 28. Participant fully understands that by signing this waiver, they are giving permission to keep nothing off the table. except sexual or inappropriate situations. Well, it's good to know they have boundaries. Everything else imaginable can and will happen inside of MM. You are aware of this and are giving full permission for any action that may happen. Participant agrees to and has full knowledge that if selected to visit the barber, participant may leave MM completely bald, including eyebrows. Participant agrees that if selected, they could be buried alive under 12 feet of dirt and rock, to which they will have a limited amount of air and they will have to figure out how to escape, and could possibly breathe in a significant amount of dust, dirt, or foreign objects that may cause death if participant does not breathe properly or hold their breath at the right time. Kinda dodgy there. Sounds like it could go one way or the other at that point. 33. Participant agrees that if selected, they will come in contact with a variety of live, poisonous animals. It is the participant's responsibility not to panic or agitate the animals. If participant is bitten, it is because the participant made a sudden movement within a confined, secured environment. If you get bitten, it's because you moved inside the coffin. You dumbass. Participant acknowledges and agrees to be submerged in 60 feet of open water. Participant acknowledges and agrees, you're saying yes to it, that their breathing apparatus will be removed and that it is participants' responsibility to make their way to the surface on their own. If done incorrectly, there is a real chance of participant drowning or receiving decompression sickness, the Benj, which could cause permanent injury or even death. I mean, at least they're not hiding the fact that you can and possibly will die during all this. Good to know. Good to know. At this point, I'm unsure if the list is just to scare you, or if it's or if this truly is as psychotic as it's made out to be. I mean, am I supposed to just shit myself and say no? Or participant understands that it is never the intent of MM to cause myself any type of psychological damage. No, we're just gonna bury you alive, put you underwater, put you with poisonous snakes, and if you get upset, you're just a big baby. Grow up here. Do McKamey Manor. Participant fully understands and agrees that if they are selected to visit the dentist, that they may have a tooth extracted without Novocaine and will not hold MM liable. Gonna rip it out. Participant fully understands and agrees that they will be participating in various medieval torture devices, such as knife throwing while strapped to a spinning wheel, shackles, chains, gibbet cage, stocks the rack, etc. You know yourself. All the good ones, all the hits from medieval times. Look forward to that. Something to look forward to. I like that. Participant fully understands and agrees that MK Ultra mind control may be used. Hell yeah. Participant fully understands and agrees that a nail may pierce their hand. Participant fully understands and agrees that their hand may be smashed with tools. Participant fully understands and agrees that they may be asked to ingest live bugs. I mean, you won't go home hungry. That's at least one good thing about this. Room and board. Participant agrees that they will drink a wide variety of liquids, including food coloring, you're gonna piss in your mouth, folks, urine, blood, or any other liquid cuisine. Liquid cuisine from around the world. What's liquid cuisine? There's no kind of getting around this. This is torture for fun and not the participants' fun. Someone is getting off here. Someone's just got off. Prize money is also not likely true. I mean, he did flee California, owing $252,000 to the IRS, so good luck getting the 20 grand if you survive this, which is a maybe already. Russ does work at Walmart. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but it's also unlikely he has 20 grand to spare. Despite the manor being sort of a shadow of itself, the fun is well and truly gone now. This is not fun anymore. Its popularity, oh, it was up there. That's how popular it was. It was up there. Everybody was talking about it. There was documentaries after documentaries. Russ's notoriety was bigger than ever, largely thanks to a Netflix documentary called Haunters, The Art of the Scare, which heavily pushed the manor as a premier attraction. Thing is though, all the footage in that documentary was shot when the manor was back in San Diego, like its original location, and now that it was in Tennessee, Summertown, whew, boy, it's been a same boss, different attraction. Like the incarnation that was based in Tennessee was a far cry from the one that they had in San Diego, which was still pretty rough, but not this rough.
What? What?
I got my hand around that little neck of yours again. You want me to squeeze that neck? You want me to...
Back then, they would kind of just beat the shit out of unsuspecting people. Now there was dog cages. Now there was waterboard. Now there was a hose in the backyard. He was still beating 7 shades of shite out of people. There was just like a lot less creativity to it these days, and now it just seems like nobody's having fun here. The notoriety gained from the Netflix stock and also like the countless internet forums and videos made on YouTube about this stuff, that also meant that law enforcement was like decided to maybe we should just like take a bit of a goo at old McKamey Manor. Like, somehow how he managed to not get arrested for so long, it kind of boggles the mind. To the point where, like, some people even online were speculating that Russ and the local sheriff's office were, like, in cahoots. Like, nobody had ever looked into it, and it was kind of bizarre. Like, people were saying for so long, like, this is not... What's going on here? Something more going on here that is definitely illegal, and how is this still allowed to take place? Instead of all that, legal interest in Russ kind of came from some very weird kind of places. Like in 2017, the Lawrence County Commissioner was apparently looking at ways to shut down the manor, but nothing ever came of it. It wasn't until 2018 that Russ was apparently interviewed at last. This time it was by an investigator for the 22nd Judicial District Attorney's Office, and once again, this led to nothing.
That's why McKamey Manor is the world's most famous haunted house, for better or for worse. I mean, we're it. If you type in extreme haunts, it's, oh my gosh, it's those guys. So I get all that, but I caused all that by the films I make, and it's all smoke and mirrors.
Somehow, in some ways, Russ just managed to skate by any legal ramifications for what McKamey Manor was doing. So I guess you could say on one hand, well, that's clearly showing that this is just very dramatic, and that he's actually not doing anything illegal, but, I mean, it just didn't seem that way. It didn't seem possible that this could be legal to do to people. I mean, people would say online, you signed up for this. You signed up for this shit, and now what, you're gonna cry about it? And then it's like, well, yes. Yes, they are. Like, how did nobody read through all this, you know, nails through the hands, poisonous snakes, drowning people? You could even be crushed to death and say, oh boy, baby, you're good to go. I can't even imagine, like, this is not exactly insurance friendly, even. But even if the legal system was kind of like overlooking Russ, the online community was absolutely not. In 2019, not only did Holly kind of see the light and actually get away from Russ, an online petition began on change.org to shut down McKamey Manor, and even as at the time of like posting this video, it's approaching 200,000 people, but you know, it's still going. Like, Russ used YouTube a lot to promote the attraction and promote it to people, and others also did, but just not in the same way. That's how a lot of like negative light began to shine on McKamey Manor. In November 2019, YouTuber Gabs came forward with a video of her own visit to McKamey, titled "I Survived McKamey Manor: The Truth." It's probably worth your time to get a first-hand insight into the real horrors at work in Russ's mind, and the things he facilitated happening to people whose safety he was responsible for. Basically, some of her key points were, quote, "I went through the haunt a couple of days after I found out about it. On the phone call, he gave me all the info, what to bring, what to wear, where to meet, and he talked about the people in Vegas. He said they'd be watching us live, and they'd be able to pay to have things happen to us," basically saying this is like some kind of dark web red room. Again, I'm expecting like a haunted house, and the address he gave me was for a park, and he said to meet at the bleachers. Signed the waiver, got put into the back of a van, and the tour started. I was basically just beat up for 6 hours, pushed around, tied up, waterboarded, my hair was cut, they put a spider on my face, stuff in my mouth, a lot of drowning simulation water tortured stuff. They made us eat stuff. My tour didn't end because my partner and I gave up. He just told us it was too late. The tours after mine got worse. The mindset became, I can beat the manor, which allowed Russ to get closer to the line. This isn't something he does because he likes horror. This is something Russ does to have control, and you can tell by the energy and the look in his face. His gross, satisfied smile while I was having a panic attack is forever ingrained in my brain. Another ex of Russ McKamey's, her name was Susan Kaplan. He dated her shortly after breaking up with Holly. She came out with her own accusations, basically mirroring what Holly and Carol had already said about Russ, about some dark stuff going on, you know, in his noodle. Like Holly, you know, she'd first heard about McKamey Manor online, she kind of sought it out, she went, and then her and Russ began texting. It kind of got flirtatious, a little bit groomy, and then pretty, you know, he came across as sort of like your typical kind of, you know, again, this is all allegedly, but kind of abuser where he would like, he was all charming and flirtatious and a really nice guy, and then once they entered into a relationship, things got kind of the other way real quick. He allegedly, you know, began to assert control and dominate Susan's life even outside of their relationship, and she quickly kind of like made her exit off stage fairly quickly. Yet Russ remained free, and according to him, the manor was thriving with a waitlist for McKamey Manor. 20,000 psychopaths want to do it. I think he does like one a week. So well, that's a lot of people. It's a lot of people who have very serious brain trauma who want to actually be a part of this freak show. What I do need to mention though is this waitlist stuff, it's a kind of sorta type deal, as we simply have to take Russ's word for it. And from multiple different accounts, if you are a pretty girl and you contact the manor, the waitlist will evaporate. By the way, this is the actual website and it's pretty illegible. The next few years up to now have been a non-stop deluge of accusations, denials, failed investigations, and legal wrangling. So many videos claiming to finally, expose the manor have been released over time. But probably the most interesting video is one done by a YouTuber named Reckless Ben, who truly kind of actually exposed McKamey Manor and Russ McKamey. He did his own, I guess you call it, investigation, and it all sort of centers around this mythical lost hard drive. See, allegedly there is this hard drive that Russ McKamey had, and he lost it. On that hard drive is the full videotapes of the participants of McKamey Manor. Like, just released to YouTube would be some select clips, the participants' entry, and then their exit. But he never really released a full video of what he actually was doing to them, just kind of clips to freak you out. So those videos he did release were very heavily edited, and they did miss kind of like, you got A and you get C, where's B? What happened? What actually happened? So he would keep all of these originals on this hard drive, what we call in the business evidence of the torture he was doing. Because when law enforcement would investigate, he would only show them, the bits he selected. Oh, I'm not torturing these people, they're claiming I assaulted them. No way, I'll show you these videos I took. He would never show law enforcement, it's believed, the full videos of what he was actually doing. He knew full well what he and his actors were doing was not strictly legal, and that footage of it could see him locked away. The thing is, at some point in the move from the original site in San Diego to the current one in Tennessee, Russ lost track of the hard drive. He claims it was stolen.
Raw, unedited footage of every single person when they're actually inside McKamey Manor.
So there is Russia's hard drive that was being sold, and it had all the San Diego tourists on it.
What this YouTuber Reckless Ben and his buddies were able to do was track down this lost hard drive. It's genuinely a fantastic video. I'd highly recommend it. It really shows a completely different side to McKamey Manor, and it really has Russ McKamey kind of on the run for a lot of it. I'll link it down in the description if you're keen to learn more about this. I would say it's mandatory viewing. So what the secret footage kind of revealed is it's all fake. Sorta.
Because he'll go to some pretty extreme measures just to make sure he gets a viral reaction. So first he told his audience that Marissa's about to go through a challenging underwater swim. So now he needs a massive reaction for when she gets out. Desperate to capture it, he ties her down and pepper sprays her. All Russ needs now to complete the shot is a little bit more movie magic. Now, everyone watching the YouTube video thinks she just came out of the scariest underwater haunted house ever. And because Russ was able to capture such a crazy reaction, his video went viral.
It appears to show Russ, tell people what's going to happen, and then he blindfolds them and tricks them into believing, the torture that they're actually undergoing. To the point that many of his original actors, they actually quit McKamey Manor because they just thought it was kind of complete bullshit. They thought it was complete bullshit, but also going too far. Like, the videos he filmed, they're pretty fake. He's telling participants to cry and scream about, what they endured in McKamey Manor. But then at the same time, the torture he was genuinely doing, it just seems brutal. Like, it just seems personal and very dark. I mean, I know this whole story is dark and disturbing, but this just seems truly sadistic in a way that it didn't seem like it was before, but also sort of pathetic. Like, some of the contestants that he filmed were just actors. He would say, like, I'm not going to do anything to you, this is just, for a promotional video. But then he would actually torture them, like dragging them behind his car where they would truly get, like, cut up, and then dunked them in water that was really, really dirty, as if he was trying to purposely get their wounds infected. It's very, very strange. Sadistic is probably the best word for it. For example, there's no snake pits or high wire acts or throwing you in a lake or burying you alive. It's just him and you on his property with hoses, fridges full of water, dog cages, trip tires, and pretty much whatever he has lying around. So Reckless Ben and his buddies, they sent this raw footage to the police, who did not care. And that was kind of it. He said he won't release the footage to the internet because the participants, you'd need their permission too. And so that sort of kind of just ended. The main thing though that was revealed is the very sad current iteration of McKamey Manor.
Yoga class. Meek from the inside flip. Don't let crush your little feetsies.
Come on, you're an athletic woman. Be athletic. Let's go. I'm filming you right now. This is for the world to see. Let's go. Don't break it. Don't break it. Come on, let's go.
What began as a fun night out for kids at Halloween before morphing into a vicious PTSD-inducing nightmare has finally come full circle and then carried on its journey into abject hilarity, but mostly sadness.
I put a mark in the grass where you gotta go.
Now I've got to pass it though, okay? I've got to go past.
Far from the nightmarish experience, former contestants would have gone through, now the current iteration of McKamey Manor seems to be you put on a onesie and you do jumping jacks and push-ups while carrying a barrel on your back. And that's sort of get hosed down. And that's kind of it. It's kind of sad and pathetic now at this stage. And it also seems obvious that Russ doesn't have $2 to give a winner. Never mind the $20,000 that is promised for whoever survives McKamey Manor. So as a result, anyone who's even close to finishing, there's no finishing. You can't finish McKamey Manor because once you get close to finishing, you're forced to quit. Or rather, Russ will say, oh, you can't do anymore for your own safety. It's getting too dangerous. I'm not going to let you finish this, and therefore you're not going to get any prize money. That doesn't exist anyway.
And unfortunately, you missed, like I said, you've missed about 3.5 hours of some really...
I'm being denied my 3.5 hours.
You are, but...
I'm being denied my 3.5 hours.
Wife,
Yeah.
don't stop.
But
Tell her I'm not.
But for the record, he wants to go fourth, but for safety reasons, I don't feel comfortable.
Allegedly, this is a tactic Russ has used to trick all versions of his haunts, that as soon as anybody was close to finishing it and getting whatever prize that he promised, he would just say, for safety reasons, it's getting too extreme, we gotta stop now. So nobody ever actually won shit. However, when Reckless Ben, his expose and his videos came out, Russ, of course, came out on social media hitting back.
So he's been, for the last 6 months, posting a ton of videos about little old me, about exposing the manor and exposing me. And he's just been a real classy, really good kind of guy with really good information, right? Wink, wink.
Calling him out, and it's kind of turned into some sort of drama shite. Like, there's this whole other side to McKamey Manor also. Feuds between different haunted house owners and Russ, ex-friends of his setting up McKamey Manor Exposed. Like, there's this whole other drama and a large number of people truly creating these communities dedicated to shutting down McKamey Manor. But still also, on the other hand, to this day, throughout all of basically what I've gone through at McKamey Manor, there's a lot of people who still follow him, who still support him, people still signing up to take part, participate in McKamey Manor. The explosion in interest in recent years basically forced the authorities into having to investigate. And finally, after decades of whistleblowing and thousands of hours of independent investigations, on Halloween 2023, Tennessee Attorney General sent notice to Russ McKamey that both he and McKamey Manor were under investigation. Russ replied by filing a whole bunch of frivolous and silly lawsuits. But then, yet another twist in this story came over the summer of 2024. Folks, I'm getting whiplash from all the twists in the story of McKamey Manor.
Tracking crime now in Lawrence County, the owner of an infamous haunted attraction known for its extreme tactics is facing charges. According to court documents, Russ McKamey was arrested at his home in Summertown on Friday after allegedly assaulting his girlfriend. Since Friday, more charges have been filed. He's now accused of trying to kill his girlfriend on more than one occasion, with the first incident reported on July 17th, a day before the alleged attack. McKamey is accused of strangling the victim on 2 separate incidents.
On July 19, 2024, Russell McKamey, now age 65, was arrested and charged with domestic assault against his, and I'm not kidding here, 25-year-old girlfriend, Shaylin Williams. 2 days after the initial arrest, the charges were updated to include attempted second-degree murder and rape, with a bond going from $1,000 to $100,000. Russ was able to post the bond, but was ordered to have no contact with Shaylin. And then, folks, just at the end of September 24, what happened to Russ, what's been happening to Russ, it just kept happening. And by that I mean, nothing at all. all charges were dropped.
All charges have been dropped after the court hearing Monday in Lawrence County.
The district attorney, apparently, they reviewed the evidence and decided not to prosecute. I guess they found the evidence against Russ McKamey was not enough to prosecute, and so everything was dropped. Russ responded by posting a video of him singing. So he likes to celebrate. Hey, can't fault a man for that. And so that's really the story of McKamey Manor to date. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's very twisted and very disturbing. A horrifying experiment by a mad scientist, or truly just a torture chamber run by an actual psychopath. I'll leave that up to you to decide. I mean, it's not boring, and Russ is not boring, I'll give him that. You know, when I started looking into this, I kind of did want to give Russ McKamey the benefit of the doubt. But the more I kept looking into it and finding out, and more news that was coming to light about the whole McKamey Manor and himself, whoa boy, wowzers. Gee willikers, oh gosh. He is an insane maniac person. I think that's kind of undisputed at this point. But whether there will be any consequences, should there be consequences for the whole McKamey Manor fiasco, you know what? That's not for me to decide, but have at it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. It truly means the absolute world to me that you're here watching this whole video. As always, new That Chapter video is out every Tuesday, but please check out the That Chapter Patreon. Whole playlist of patron exclusive videos, patron only Discord, early access ad-free versions of all videos, and also the That Chapter podcast releases a new video, brand new podcast exclusive story every Monday morning. So please give it a go. But until the next whole video, please take care of each other and yourselves, because I love you. Mike out.